Everybody, my name is Ann Sessions. I'm your senior warden, and today I am going to be just sort of moderating, really, more than anything, a discussion about looking into the future for St. Margaret's without a crystal ball, but with your input, with your insights, with things that we have learned from talking to you guys in various different groups, and some discussion about budget and money, but I think that's where we're headed. So now that we've started with the eat part, I hope everybody's comfortable. I will apologize. I'm not a PowerPoint person. I usually work in the Mac program, so this is a little clunky for me, and I'm going to be clunky for you guys. We are going to take questions at the end of this presentation in hopes that we can move quickly and then fire away. If something's really desperate and hands waving dramatically, we'll be happy to talk to you, but I think we can go through it quickly and then start doing questions more efficiently at the end. So the first person I'm going to introduce to you is Charlie Lang, who is the treasurer of St. Margaret's, and he is going to go through with you where we are in 2015 and what things are looking like into 2016. Charles?
To separate myself from the rest of the team, you'll hear I'm the ghost of budgets past and present. Everybody you'll hear after me will be the ghost of budgets future. If you remember when I stood up here in January to review the budget for this year, 2015, I gave a little nod to what had happened in the past, and this is what has happened in the past from pledging. 2012, 2013 was the high water mark, and then we had the capital campaign, which did put some financial pressure on the givers. And as you can see, in 2014, 2015, we did not match what we had done for. Currently, today, reflecting some of that based on what we should have, which is the amount of the pledge through September, 3/4 of the year. We're $76,000 under what we should have in the bank from givers. Plate is running about 10K under, which is not too bad. And also on the first point, in relation to where we were last year at this time, it was half that deficit in pledging. So I do have a minor concern at this point in time. Let me go back and we talk about we have not made the transfer from the endowment. Again, if you recall what was approved by the vestry last December into January for the budget, there is funding in the amount of $70,000 roughly that we're going to take from the endowment to use in the operating budget, which is substantially more than we've done in past years. That's based on what we had projected for our staffing costs, and in fact that's all coming true. Have not made that withdrawal from the endowment. For all of you who have a 401k or an IRA, you saw the loss we took this summer. I didn't want to take shares out of the endowment while we were in a low point. So it's slowly creeping back. So probably later this month or mid next month is when we'll make that pull to be able to true up. For expenses so far this year, we're actually in pretty good shape expense-wise. The only surprise we got was an unexpected big bump in our BG&E electrical costs because of construction. If you recall, we had wires running from this building through the admin building over to the trailer that was the construction trailer. So that was a direct cost that had actually not been planned or anticipated, to the point that we've spent already $10,000 more in our buildings and grounds electrical budget than what we had projected. So I'm working it out with the building team to see what funds we could transfer from those funds to our operating budget to help us out with that. But overall, we're actually in pretty good shape on expenses. We have hired the part-time bookkeeper, Harriet. If you haven't met her, please do. She is a treasure. She's only working 16 hours a week, which is working out okay. We probably could use her up to the 19 or 20, but based on what we're doing so far, that's working out well. Of course, we hired our senior administrator, Elizabeth, and again, another treasure. For those who haven't met her, please get to know her well. She's already made a big difference. And then we have, at this point, as you met Quentin, if you were at the 9 o'clock service, you met Quentin West, who is the additional youth manager in addition to Janelle. And so we have pretty much up to full staff. The only position that's been authorized that we haven't hired yet is the sexton. And based on projections for... Yeah, show Mark's unhappy face over there, the junior warden. But it's probably not going to be a position we'll fill this year. We're going to increase some contract cleaning costs, and also with the additional 15,000 square feet that building represents, that is going to be a substantial increase in cost on our cleaning budget. There's two slides. One is the percentage breakout for the different areas within our budget that we again briefed back in January, and we're holding to that very well. And then if you're not a pie chart person, if you're a stack chart person, then it's the same thing. Yeah, that's somebody else. Yeah, okay. Again, basically, we're in fairly good shape. Again, I have that concern about the pledging. Hopefully people back from their summer vacations and getting back to looking at their accounts will start to plus up their pledging and get us back on track. Again, expense-wise, we're in pretty good shape. And so I project that this year will not be a terrible problem. I think looking at the full cost of our staff next year, that is going to be the main effort. So, and I'll take questions after they finish their total presentation for those who have questions about the details of this year's budget.
So if you're watching the slide mistake there, now I wanted to have a representation from the stewardship team talk to you about where they are moving our focus for 2016. So Brad Callahan.
Thanks, Ann. So if we continue with the theme of Ghost of Budget Future here, looking much farther ahead, Peter talked last week about ultimately getting to $1.2 million, and we're not going to ask to lift in 2016 to that amount. But we are looking to increase the pledges, and we've asked everybody to look within your hearts to increase by 10% over what you committed last year. So everybody on the vestry and stewardship committees, we started there and asked each one of them to increase by 10%, and we have achieved that. We're also asking for commitments by October 31st. We really want to get ahead of this thing. In years past, we've gotten the commitments later in the year, and it's made it very tough for budgeting purposes. So the earlier we get the money in, the earlier we get the pledges in, we can make it a much easier job for budgeting purposes. Let them know how much money is there, and then we can make the proper assignments. So as we saw on the slide earlier, last year we had fewer than 225 pledges, representing less than $750,000. So far this year, and we're measuring this every Thursday, and you'll see some postings on the bulletin board that we have inside the church there. So far this year, as of this past Thursday, we have 29 commitments, so a little over 10% of what we had last year, but 159,000 in pledges, so we're close to 20% of what the overall goal would be of 825,000 for next year. And with that, part of what we wanted to do was not only ask you for money, but make sure that we heard where you guys would like that investment of money and time. So Tiffany's going to talk about the results of our listening sessions.
So we had 7 listening sessions. We had a total of 85 people offer their feedback on what they think are important priorities for expenditures and where we should allocate our resources. And the way people voted, so if you're wondering why these don't add up to 100, it's because everyone could pick 3 things that were their priorities, and they didn't have to rank them or anything. So they just indicated out of a list that the group would generate what 3 things they thought were the most important. And so the results give you kind of an idea, at least from the 85 people that we talked to, what they think is important in terms of the priorities of the church. And so very quickly, just kind of the top 4 were youth formation, the music program, clergy compensation, and the quantity of clergy that we could, rehire those permanent positions. Also, appropriate staffing we put in that category. And then finally, mission. And then other things that are still important were operation and maintenance, of course, pastoral care, and then kind of tapering off adult formation, evangelism, communication with our own membership, senior activities and outreach to the senior community and the church, and then other, which included, there were 2 votes each for each of these things: worship, budgeting, and training on how to pledge. So those are the results that we got. If you have any questions, I'll be around.
So that gives you a little bit of background on where we've been, the ghost of the past, the ghost of where we look to go in the future. And now I want you to sort of switch your mind into where are we going to go in the future. We know that we're going to still be feeling some of the effect of the capital campaign pledge, or capital campaign. That will last likely the full 5 years of the capital campaign, which ends in 18. We're hoping to see an uptick, definitely, as Brad was saying. But so let's think, though, at 2017, at 2018, and beyond that. Do I have any French speakers here? Oh, Sarah, can you holler it out? That's exactly what I was going to say. Weird. So in case you needed the English translation, my theory that is here that Yogi is using his French. I think the question I want to ask is, why is St. Margaret's future not going to be like it used to be? We have made, although we have run deficits, we have made a lot of very valuable investments into our future. And these are some of the obvious ones that I could pull up for you guys to remember. We have 15,000 square feet more to work with. We were busting out at the seams. We're now a little bit more comfortable, but we have more space for us to use for our missions, more ways to reach out and to reach in for our mission and to help transform lives. We also have a LEED Silver certification, which is going to serve us at large in reducing some of our environmental costs, some of our costs of running the building. And this was an intentional investment that you charged the building committee with fulfilling. You wanted to make sure that we were showing that we care about our environment, showing that we care about using the most efficient methodologies out there, and that's what we did. It comes at a cost up front, but it has a return as we move through into the future. We have, Mark, been putting in a much more efficient and effective IT and telephone communication system here. What we had been working with was patched together and was failing in any number of possible ways. And what we have invested in here, very intentionally, will put us into a more effective and efficient way into the future, both for us, for our staff as they're working, and for the people who come in and use our facilities. We have new staff member. In particular, Elizabeth Radley brings to us a new sense of organization as we move our community from a pastoral church into the resource size that we're growing into. She understands organizational systems, and she's setting us on a track, again, that moves us and teaches us to be more efficient. This allows us to use our resources in other places. So as I was doing some reading the other day, I came across this quote from Biz Stone, who is one of the co-founders of Twitter. And I thought it was very fascinating because we've been struggling oftentimes with trying to resolve budget lines, and we see numbers instead of where we can go with our mission. So look at this statement. Separate money from what you're trying to figure out, because money clouds your judgment. You have to remember it's a tool. So let's pretend we have all the money in the world. What do we really want to do with this? There really should be a Google Faith translation. I think it would be fascinating. But I just made this up. Yes, there is a financial component to our mission, but it is a component. And now we have to ask ourselves, what is God calling us to do? And this is the share part. Let's live into our future. Now up here we have images of things and ways that we already share. These are just some of the many missions that and ways that we extend into our community. Winter relief, lighthouse shelter, pumpkin patch, the trip to McAllen, Texas to help with the immigrants, the young children, our work with the lighthouse shelter. I would also say our lay pastoral care, our nursing care that was established by Pat Hall, blood drives, blood pressure screening, health screening, community support here, healing. These are all ways that we serve and we share. There are more ways we can do this. The last person I'd like to have you take a listen to is the ghost of future. Willie Williamson has a team of long-range financial planners that are working together to set us on a course that's intentional to meet our mission and our spiritual goals.
Thank you, Ann, and good morning, everyone. I asked a question at large, essentially. Has the church ever looked at a long-range financial strategy of some kind? Clearly, we do an annual budget, and I'm a part of that process, and I've got a great team of people and individuals to help me with that. And ultimately, the product is a budget that goes forth after having communications with and liaison and collaboration with the staff, with members of the vestry, with other church leaders and the like. And ultimately, a vote is taken by the vestry, and a budget is approved. Now, somebody once asked me, how do I define, the future? I define it as 2018. For all the reasons that you just heard this morning, we have had an absolutely magnanimously successful, capital campaign to date. I was talking to Jim Barnett. He's given me an indication that we're 1.8 million in receivership already. We've got 1.2 million to complete the capital campaign in the years 2016 and 17. So we are on track to reach our $3 million, capital campaign goal. What that does is it sets us a bit on the short side because we went out and we have obligated, for all the good reasons you've just heard, a little bit over $4 million for the formation building. It's just an unbelievably potential growth engine for the church, for the congregation, and for all the great work that we would like to do. Sometimes the best way to look into the future is look into the past. And one of the things I thought about was our great, wonderful, very generous parish that has already given over $2 million over the last decade or so. Actually, it's extending it. I think if Izzy were here, I think she'd say 18 years or so. But the fact is that $2 million of our precious, financial resources have gone to do great mission work throughout the globe, and we ought to be very, very proud of that. But the fact is, we've got $1.2 million yet to provide and complete the capital campaign. And then my sense is that the generosity, the caring, and the giving that this church does for others is just going to continue. It's not going to end and stop just because the campaign is complete. But in fact, we're going to put ourselves on a much better footing whereby, I won't be up here, or somebody else representing the budget team won't be up here and tell you that, for the next 2 years, we're going to run a deficit budget. I can't tell you tonight what that's going to look like for 2016. I suspect that the final budget that will be approved by the vestry will look very, very similar to what we have budgeted for this year. There'll be some slight modifications, as you saw, some additional expenses due to the wonderful new hires that we have, potential increases in interest as a direct result of the construction loans. And by the way, I'll stop right there. You guys just simply won't believe how wonderful the EFPC team did in contracting with BB&T for that loan. It is phenomenal. You could not do it today, even under the low interest circumstances and so forth. So John Goldthwait and I, wrestled with, quite frankly, any modifications to that construction loan. And then we looked at a potential mortgage situation in the year 2018 to cover the delta between what we have and what we don't have. And I've got to tell you, there's nothing better than what we have been able to negotiate. So hats off to the entire team that did that. So let's talk a little bit about 2018 before I close and we open this up to questions, because I know that many of you haven't been to church yet. 2018, I personally am guilty of being an eternal optimist. I really believe that we're going to be 10% larger at least in terms of the size of this congregation. As a direct result, the forcing function behind that growth is our formation building. The second thing is, as you saw Charlie put up in the chart there, last year I believe it was 223 of us as individuals, as family members, pledged. That number will rise. I'm just totally convinced of it. We are not going to wait until 2018 to make that happen. Thank you guys for doing, God's work and reaching out to the congregation, which so far I think is probably the finest anywhere on this planet. So with that said, I've got a great team. Oh my gosh, and she changed the slide on me with 4 F-18s, kind of sitting there, nice formation. And I was going to tell you, Ann's in the lead. I've got Jim Barnett flying one wing, John Goldthwait on the other. There I am in the rear. But the fact is, there we've got some great, what I call tankers in the sky. And people like Jerry Smith I can go to, Jim Hall I can go to, people with vast amount of knowledge and experience. And they are wonderful resources. And just like in the formation of 4 F-18s, we entrust the safety and the well-being of our nation to our military. Well, I would ask that if you, for the patience that we'd like to have, that you will entrust your finance team as we go forward into some murky and lean years, 16 and 17, but the years beyond are going to be absolutely fantastic. And I thank you all for your generosity and your care. And if you've got any questions, would this be a good time to take some of those?
Let's do one last and then do questions.
Okay.
I just wanted to show you how things, although you could see from the ghost of budgets past, things have been going down. You can look at this and you can see how there are a lot of other indicators that are going up. And to honor Biz Stone, these aren't dollars here. These are other numbers. We have improved attendance. We have improved Sunday school attendance. We have improved unique visitors to our webpage. And not that I'm competitive or anything, but we have more attraction to our Facebook page than many other organizations just like us. Yeah, I was not going to say that, but I did put it in print. We have a lot of very good indicators. There's not just one way of measuring a program, and there are many different ways of measuring a program. And I just wanted to show you some other things here that show that there's some very good stuff happening here at St. Margaret's. I had no doubt. I want to make sure you guys have no doubt. And I'm right. There are some more extraordinary numbers at the day school. Am I right, Susan? I mean, your registration is not only full at the day school. You have a waiting list. Am I right? We'll have to build another school. I heard that groan. So let's return to the idea of eat, pray, and share. I'm assuming that you're at the end of the eat part. We continue to pray. We all need to continue to pray. It's for us. It is for you. It is for our community around us. It is so we can hear what our mission is to transform. We have a lot of gifts here that we are looking to share. I think one of the points that has come up through the budgeting is that when we use the endowment in a reactive way, we are able to patch up holes in our budget. We're able to make a end-of-year closing. That's fine, but let's think about how we can use it in an intentional way, because when we have used it intentionally, we have had very good growth. We've had a wonderful effect in transforming lives, starting simply with the day school, moving into this building. So let's think about what we can do intentionally and how we can share. And with that, let's open up for some questions. And Brad, Willie, Charlie, myself, anybody, please fire away. We do have an open mic here, if that helps for our people to hear questions. Fumiko, can you ask your question into the microphone right here? And tell us tell us who you'd like to have answer the question. And Justin Bieber is out of the question.
How big was the BG&E bill that we got hit with? I mean,
Fumiko's question is, how big was the BG&E bill? Charles?
roughly. I mean, I don't.
The budgeted amount was 35,000 for the whole year. We've spent 45,000 already as of the end of September.
Expected to be repeated every year?
We don't know that. We do not think that that amount that we spent for the construction is going to be what we see, but we still don't know yet because we haven't seen the bills for what I'll call a normal cycle for the new building, what the total will be. Mark is doing the analysis of the winter, this winter, against previous winters to see how much of that increase can be directly attributable to the building construction. Then that'll give us some sense of how much more we could expect for the rest.
Just for planning purposes, Fumiko, is, and I'm still waiting for the final numbers from Mark, but we're anticipating that the 35,000 that was budgeted for this year is going to be closer to 50 or 55,000 for next year for the 2016 budget. That's a lot, but that's what it's going to take to keep the lights on and the place warm and cool in the summer.
Would some of these numbers be in printed form for us to?
I'd have to defer to Mark in terms of the exact figures that he's working on. But the fact is, it will be whatever he gives us as his best estimate of those utility costs,
So I can sit down
and it will definitely be reflected in the budget as well. But I know you want to see it long before you see a budget.
We'll have all those information in there, but I don't want to wait that long.
Yep. Is that fair to say that you're going to have those figures relatively soon that we can publish? Thank you.
Leah?
Hi, I'm Leah Grove, Coffee Hour Coordinator. I was in the back for quite a while, so you may have mentioned this. Are we any closer to having a sexton? James was setting up chairs this morning.
Mark, would you like to cry into the microphone? There is not here's where we are. There is not a plan to bring a sexton on staff in 2015. There has been a job search that's initiated. There are a number, I'm going to say 40 plus resumes. That's not to say 40 plus qualified resumes, but 40 plus resumes have been received. Is the offer still open? Is there still a jobs listed? So probably in 2016 there'll be a restart of this. Believe me, if one person knows there needs to be a sexton, it would be our junior warden, Mark Torrance, and followed up quickly by the senior warden. Oh, yeah, that's me. And the entire staff. It is not gilding the lily. It's not icing on the cake, all those kinds of things. It is a very strong need, especially now that we have 15,000 more feet to manage.
Sorry to keep piling on a little bit. I thought it was a great question. But one of the things that you saw on a chart from the stewardship committee today was, the feedback, and the feedback was youth development. It was the most important. I believe that was followed by mission. No, mission was number 4. Music was number 2, and number 3, I believe, was clergy and staff. So as we start our deliberations and conversations with the staff and the commission leads, I can tell you that's going to have an awful lot of influence on where and how we apportion, for the 2016 budget year. So sorry, Mark, but I don't know where, the section will likely fall out, but, we've got a couple months to work on it.
Stewardship has a behavioralist working for them, Tiffany, so don't you want to ask that kind of question? I just think that's so cool. Izzy?
That is an idea that has been discussed. The execution of that is not been decided, but it certainly has been discussed that that is a resource that we could use to entice someone to come in and be a sexton on the property, you know, but obviously we have a lease, we have people living there right now, so but that is on the table, so.
One of the advantages of an event like this is you get to see a lot of the faces of the people who are helping to guide this process. So you can find us, you know, you can look up Willie, you can look me up, you can find Mark Torrance, and you can tell us what mission means to you. Now, we have heard in our smaller group discussions, as Tiffany was breaking out, what some of these specifics are. But we wanted you to be able to put names and faces together so you can talk to us more directly about what you want mission to be, what you want it to look like. How can we make it intentional as we reach into our communities and transform? Tug? Well, about that telephone and internet upgrade. That has been a very difficult process. That is not something that we're ignoring, Tug. You're lucky you even got something to pick up on the other end of the phone. There's been a 2-week period where sometimes the phone rang for Joe's Pizza and nothing for St. Margaret's. ASAP is what the intention is. The question is, do we have everything wired for internet and for FiOS and the few elements of copper wiring we still have? Do we have it all operating and online and moving in the same direction? And then yes, those updates should be working. But the internet and the telephony here have been quite a challenge for the last several months. Let me give you just a little playbook. George Sirach was the head of the EFPC building committee, so he's intimately familiar with the allocation of funds and the decisions on that. Tom Wentz is communications director on that committee, and then he's mentioning Dick Williams, who is the consultant for our LEED program in developing the silver certification on the new building. So that's the link in these names that we're mentioning. And Dick Williams is also a member of our community, so he is committed to continue this effort and opportunities for further efficiencies and hopefully environmentally positive moving forward opportunities here. And we are at almost 10 after the hour, so I need to let you guys go. Thank you very, very much for your help, your time today.